Someone You Should Know. A program about people you know and even more that you don't. Hosted by Stuart Sax, veteran, husband, father, and grandfather. Now, here's your host, Stuart Sax.
Well, I welcome you to another episode of Someone You Should Know. We're going to have a good time today. My guest today is incredible, and her career and what she has done with her career. You're going to love this. And by the way, I want all the guys and the girls to be ready for this show, because this one's going to appeal to both of you, especially you ladies. Ha ha ha. And we are brought to you again by our good friend, Christine Dean, who is the networking diva. And all you got to do is thenetworkingdiva.com, and you can go to her website. Now, who is Christine Dean? She is a marketing guru. She can help you with your websites, with your marketing plans, with your strategies for taking your business to the next level. She does it on a very, very personal level and all one-on-one with you. You can reach out and have a complimentary consultation with her. And Christine Dean knows everything there is to know about your marketing presence on social media. Reach out to her. She's a great person to interact with. Well, today's show is about sex. Now I got your attention, and we're going to be having a great conversation with GiGi Meier. And GiGi, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I am so looking forward to chatting with you.
Well, I always figure if you hit people with the word sex and steamy hot novels and stuff like that, you got their attention, and that's what you do for a living now. You write steamy, hot, sexy novels. And it's incredible, because that ain't what you always wanted to do, was it? Or did you always want to be a novelist?
Oh, no. I'm glad you asked that question. I spent 30 years in corporate America climbing the ladder to get to the top. So when I was in the C-suite, I was the youngest, and by 15, 20 years. And at the time, the only female. And so
Wow.
I kind of had a blueprint as to okay, this could be the next 20 years of my life in the C-suite. And I thought, no, I don't want to die with my music inside. I have a lot more in me that I want to explore. And 30 years in corporate America was enough.
Being the only woman in this situation, did you feel that you were ostracized? Were you looked at through a different lens than most of the men in the office?
Well, yes and no. So it is a male-dominated industry. I was used to working in that kind of climate and environment for a long time. Was I invited to lunch with the boys? No. Was I invited to the golf outings or the annual hunting trips? No. Did I mind? Not really, because I was the chief administration officer for a $4 billion publicly traded company. I had 19 direct report managers and almost 400 employees. So I didn't have time for such luxuries. I was too busy working.
Well, and obviously you didn't get to that position and all, without having the credentials and the wherewithal to elevate yourself to that area.
Thank you. And that's very true. But I think I had good mentors along the way. I don't believe in speaking bad about one sex over the other. But there you have really good male mentors, and they kind of cut through the fluff that sometimes females the fluff and emotion that females get hung up into. So I can think all through my career about the different male mentors I had that were like, if you're willing to put in the work, I'll back you, I'll support you. And it really helped.
Do you think that the landscape has changed over those last 30 years that you were in corporate America, and all for, women like yourself?
Oh, for sure. Because when I first started, the very first bank I had ever worked for, it was an all-male banking board and all-male banking holding company. And so the women were stay-at-home wives. They took care of the kids, and the men focused on work. It was that structure that my parents actually lived under. And so as females were promoted throughout the organization, we also were reaching a hand out to those behind us saying, okay, where do you want to go in your career? Having those conversations to develop people behind us because we had to have a succession plan. So it's just a different way of your perspective. When you've gone from the trenches at the very bottom and worked your way up, you're like, I'm going to be the one that gives a handout and help up.
Amazing. And you are in Texas now. Have you always been a Texan, born and raised?
Okay, no, we are snowbird transplants. So my family is from Minnesota, and so they talk like this. Oh yeah, don't you know? So like many people, we came in 1979 when the oil and gas boom was taking off in Houston. It was an oil and gas town by far. Now the climate landscape has changed so much. We are very much an international city, extremely diverse, not only in our culture, but also in our industries. And so that's what brought me here in 79. But nope, we're some snowbirds in the family.
Yeah, well, I'm from the Midwest too. I'm from around the Chicago area. And also, occasionally we love going back there, but generally not in the winter.
I love Chi-Town. It is phenomenal. But no, those winters are brutal. And I know that it's a lake, but when you stand on the edge of that, it looks like an ocean, and the choppy ice and the blistering winds. No, thank you.
So you've spent the better part of your life then in Texas, and you have two amazing kids that are teenagers, correct?
Correct.
And now I get into the saucy stuff, because there was a point in your career, and I want you to share with those that are watching and listening. You have had this love and desire to be a novelist, and all, but there was obviously some point in your career where you said, I think I've probably reached as far out as I can, and now I want to kind of turn 180 degrees and now pursue a passion, and all. And when did you get to that point, and how did you make that turn?
I think a lot of people can relate to this. We put so much expectations on when I get to, and then X, fill in the blank. When I get married, when I graduate, when I get that job, when I get that promotion. I was no different. It was always, here's my 3, 5, 10-year plan, because you talk about that in your job performance. Where do you want to go? And so I always had that mapped out ahead of me. I thought, okay, I want my boss's job, and I want my boss's job. And you do that, dress for success, lean in, all that corporate rhetoric, right? So you get to the top of climbing the corporate ladder, break the glass ceiling, all that jazz. And it's not what you would expect it to be. It is a lot of work. I had a lot of fun developing people. That's probably one of the things I was most passionate about. Running the operations of the bank was really fun. Also, there's so much to do all the time. It was 80-hour work weeks every single week through the pandemic and all the new government programs. But you get, when you lay your head on your pillow at night, you think, what is this for? Like, is this really what I made for? I'm a woman of faith, and I can't think that, God put me on earth to talk about regulatory requirements and the government programs that we're launching. And so I thought, if I don't make the move now, I will never make it. And so I could continue, like I said, in that corporate structure, because the plan had already been there. I was, the youngest. I had plenty of miles left to go on that road, but I thought, I'm on the wrong path and I don't want to do that. And I think that's relatable to a lot of people, because it's about reinvention. We only get one shot at this life. And if you don't try at all, you're going to be, in a nursing home with regrets. And I refuse to be that person.
Okay. So GiGi, you're at this turning point in your life. And some people would say, I've been very successful, and I have the wherewithal to travel maybe a little bit, to do things that I want to do. And maybe I've always wanted to take up golf and go travel the links around the country. You decided you wanted to write books. And folks, now's where the story kind of takes an interesting turn. We flip the page, because you didn't necessarily want to just write books. Why did you want to write the kind of books that you are writing? And we're going to go to the website in just a few minutes, folks. But I want GiGi to set it up as to why she chose this path.
I'm a hopeless romantic. And so I know that's hard to tell when I was in the corporate world, right? Because it's all this masculine energy. But I think deep within, I wanted to have that feminine energy. I wanted to fall in love. I wanted to meet the hero that comes in and damsel in distress saves the day. And so during difficult or challenging times in my life, I've always turned to writing as a cathartic output for how to process emotions and events and just different things that people have done, betrayals. You're trying to make sense. And so I had actually, before I took the leap out of corporate America and to become a romance author, 10 novels in my laptop. And I still have those. I doubt they'll ever see the light of day. But I use those to write through my divorce, through difficult challenges in relationships, when people come in and out of your life, seasons. And so that's what really helped me make the leap into romance.
And boy, did she make the leap. So it's very, very easy, folks. You don't even have to jot it down. It is www.gigimeier.com. And what a site it is, because I can only imagine what's going on inside of that brain when you are creating these novels. You've got 16 of them published already, correct?
I do.
16 novels, and it is all about, folks, look at right there, that tells it, because that's not only a book, that is a series of books. That's what, 5 books in the Cougars and Cubs series.
Correct.
And I mean, there are so many questions that I want to pursue within this, because, I want to know, where do these characters come from? I mean, are any of them even remotely based on this male-dominated society that you were existing in for 30 years?
So that's a good question. Yes and no. When I think about the male-dominated industry, there's lots of characters that I could write from. But since I'm raising a son, the climate has changed for males in the US. And so they're looked to take like a back seat. It's women's empowerment that's on the rise. And trust me, I am not against that either. It's just an interesting dynamic to see what I had spent 30 years around and now what I'm raising today. And so these characters, these younger men, older women, the younger men are fun, right? I always call my stuff steamy, naughty fun, because that's what my older women and my readership is looking for. They want to escape. We all you can get caught in politics, you can get caught in the economy, you can talk about all these serious things, but at the end of the day, people want to escape to a world where it's just fun and they don't have to think. And so that's the outlet that I provide for my female readers.
Just slightly higher on the screen. I want to have Christine stop right there, because it says it started with Dynasty, and that intrigued me, was because to go back to the days in the 70s of Joan Collins and Dynasty and everything, is that part of that process that made you say, okay, now I think I've got the way to create these characters and intertwine them with each other?
I think so, because if you think about the feminist movement, obviously I built my career on the backs of the women that went before me, correct? And the sad situation about the feminist movement, there used to be a commercial decades ago that was like, I can bring home the bacon and fry it up in a pan. So what we didn't say was to elevate the men's participation in the home, right? It was the women were supposed to now do both. I think we're very far removed from that. I think partnerships usually tend to be a lot more 50-50 based nowadays.
Yeah.
But that was the wrong message that we sent. I grew up where my mother could only become a nurse, a teacher, or a secretary. And so when I talk about building my career on the backs of women, it was literally on her back, right? Having to see her limit and cap out and be pigeonholed where I could excel past that. So my female characters are no different. They are strong, independent women that I want to write for. And it's not of the old adage where you have to bring home the bacon and fry it up. But back to Dynasty, I mean, oh my gosh, those were the best cat fights. They had the big shoulder pads. It was glitz. It was glamour. They were tossing people down these grand staircases, dripping in diamonds. It was the epitome of the start of what we call like the new age of feminism.
Well, and that also was about the time that this word cougar started to enter our our vocabulary, because it was these established, stronger, older women that were no longer really interested with their plateau aged peers. They knew that they could go out and conquer a younger world. And this is very evident in your novels, because these are strong women who are experienced, and they pick their partners. And I mean, I'm so intrigued with the covers for your books, and I want to know the men that are on the covers of your books. Did you interview all of them personally?
Stuart, a girl can dream, but no, sadly.
But they are not just your figment of your imagination. You obviously had to go through lots of pictures and all to say, okay, this is who I want for the cover of this and that and all. And these are strong, virile men, and you intertwine the stories. And where was the line that I like? Your books are with heartbreaking angst, panty dropping lust, and inevitable love. Why is it that your followers, your readers, and all just soak up all of this? I mean, is it that they feel a certain inadequacy that this fills and all, or is it that they feel adequate and they want this, reinforcement by reading your novels?
Well, let's be honest. Ageism exists, and ageism is both a male and female problem. At some point, you get to where you're not relevant. And I think social media has kind of accelerated the ageism, because we're all used to seeing these beautiful, perfect highlight reels, like here's me in Turks and Caicos, or here's me with my, fancy, luxurious hair. And so it's not that women feel inadequate or something is missing. It's they want to feel young, vivacious. Maybe they missed out on those experiences. Maybe they married their high school sweetheart or their college sweetheart. They just want a little bit more spice, but they don't want to go out the door, right? We're not going to, cheat outside a relationship. So it allows them a little bit of a sampling of what other men are like, how they act. And then they can take what they read and they call book boyfriends, and they can apply it to their real life partner. So it's almost like supplementing and it letting them travel into worlds that they may not have experienced, nor would they want to. Some people may be in a very happy relationship and they just want to be able to see, pull back the curtain and what's it like on the other side.
And when you travel, when you look at people in various places, does this kind of create in your mind a character maybe for one of your next books?
Oh, it does. So we just got back from New York Fashion Week, where my daughter walked in New York. And so I know,
Nice.
I'm so proud of her. But you're right, because there's different mannerisms. There's different way people approach the talking. When we were in New York, people tend to be a lot more hurried. The conversation is shorter. Some of the characters, there tend to be, and I know this is kind of odd to say, but we tend to have a lot more diversity in New York and a lot more darker complected or darker featured. And so it allows you to be like, oh, I want to write this type of character. Or sometimes you get, let's say, an Uber, and you have an amazing Uber driver, and he is just so chatty. And so we get ideas and inspiration from all different sources. You go to dinner, someone walks in the restaurant, all over. But you're right, traveling, oh my gosh, sitting in the airport and people watching, whoo, top tier.
Exactly. Now, do you travel with a little notebook or something, or where you take notes and you'll write down a paragraph or two about a situation that you were in?
That is such a good question. So I do two different things. I'll do voice notes if I'm in a hurry, or I also use the notes app on my phone if I want to be a little bit more descriptive and I have time. Because when you're waiting for an airplane, you got all the time in the world because you have to
Right.
get there like 2-3 hours early to get through all the TSA and all that. And so then you sit and you just people watch.
Yeah, and that can become a source for some of your characters too.
Of course.
Either visually, or you catch a conversation between a couple people that are sitting waiting for their flight. Uh, and not to change subjects at all. It's just kind of to go in a little bit different direction. But I'm talking to somebody who sees things maybe differently than other people do. But is it fair to say that there is maybe that creativity in all of us? It's just what individuals will do with that creativity in order to put the mindset on paper and put it between the covers of a book.
That's an excellent question because I do think that all of us here have a creative outlet. I mean, it's why we have poetry, it's why we have art, it's why we have books. There's so many different mediums that you can express your artistic outlet, but it also has to be trained, right? Raw talent. And you'll talk to any author and they're like, oh my gosh, my first book or my debut novel, don't read it, compared to how they've worked and grown their craft over time. But it is watching people and it is picking up on our idiosyncrasies. What are our tells? What are our habitual repetitive patterns that we do? Some people are fidgeters, right? So you pick up, and does my character need a fidgeter? Because although that it's kind of the same story that you're telling every single time in romance, people do want different characters. You've heard Grumpy to Sunshine or Alpha Protector or Golden Retriever Black Cat Energy. People want the variety of characters, and that's really reflective of life, right?
What made you decide to do these series? Because you have the Cougars and Cubs series. You also have a series, the Bikers of Boston series. So obviously that's got a genre of the Northeast. Then you have, and I don't want to mispronounce it. Is it the Canyon series?
Correct.
Okay. And that's kind of a different cast of characters. Why did you decide that, okay, instead of just writing a book about something, I want to make it a series based on that physical location or that genre of people?
So I do tend to write a cast of characters because I think it's just more fun. Think about you or anyone that's listening. They have their family, their friends, their circle of influence. And so you naturally get to know them through storytelling. I may start with one cougar because Cougars and Cubs is set in Houston. The Canyon series is set in Canyon City, Colorado. And then Bikers of Boston, obviously, is Boston, Massachusetts. And so when you introduce one character, you have all these side characters. And what's great about it is readers will tell you, oh my gosh, I want more of this character, or what's their story, or he's intriguing. And so to me, I like to go through the entire friend group, family group, however they're related, and everybody get their own book. And in fact, the Canyon series has 4 books. But I have readers that are like, I want to know what's going on with Lars, or I want to know what's going on with Rico. So I get requests all the time to expand that to 2 more books and make it 6 total because the readers want it.
I have to ask you, how much of this that you are writing about could maybe fall under the label of autobiographical?
Okay, well, I wish I could say a lot of it, but in actuality, it's not even the case. I spent so long working, I didn't have any outlet to have fun or anything of that means. So not too much is autobiographical.
But you're catching up now. So if you didn't actually live among those characters in your books, you are now living with them in creating them in what you're doing.
Yeah, I would like to say that, but yes, if Stuart, if you're asking if I'm single and do I date younger, yes and yes.
Okay. And now, how adequate does that make a guy feel who's going out with you and say, Gigi, I want to go out and have a good time with you, but am I going to become a subject in one of your books?
No, that's not the case at all. I think, does art imitate life? I think in a lot of manners. I pick up on people's mannerisms, their speech patterns, like colloquialisms or use of it. But do I take real people and inject them into my books? No. Although I do have 2 of my books are based on real people that I know.
Okay. Let's not tell anybody which one of those books they are, because we want people to reach out and get the series and read the books, and maybe they'll be able to figure out who's who.
Yeah, no, I can't give those spoilers away. That's like the greatest mystery ever.
That's right. Now 16 novels you have already that have been published. How, what is the process that you go through now for the people that are watching and listening that maybe have published 1 or 2 books? With 16 books, how do you come up with a scenario that is different and inviting and exciting for your readers who are following, all of your previous books?
I know this is going to sound boring, but it's really repetition. So I write every day. And not to say that you have great writing days. Some days it's a struggle. You only get 1, page done. Other times the words just flow out. And I think it's just getting your reps in. But what I always tell new and aspiring authors is that you have to teach yourself who you are as a writer first. Do I write in the morning? Do I write in the afternoon? Do I write long sentences, short sentences? What is my genre? What are my subgenres that I like to write? It's not, romance is a wide umbrella. Within it, you have dark romance, baseball, hockey, sports. You also have mafia, mine, which is a reverse age gap. So a lot of it is teaching yourself what kind of writer you are first. And that's done through the reps. And you kind of figure out yourself. And then you can go into the stories and think like, okay, what do I want to write? What would my readers be interested in? And I do have a reader group on Facebook. So if I'll ask them, hey, I'm looking for a first name of a character. I'm going to put, you guys just dive in, put them in the comments. I'll do a poll. You guys vote. And that's how I got the character for the book that I'm currently writing, Whiskey Throttle, which is the 3rd book in the Bikers of Boston series. I was like, name the mom.
Now you are in Texas and all, and the Cougars and Cubs series you said is really kind of Texas based. The other series is in Colorado. The other series is in Boston. Have you spent any time in your life of any measurable time in either of those locations in order to come up with the characters and the scenarios and the locations within those books?
So my sister was born in Canyon City, Colorado. So I have a little bit about that, although we are going back this summer, so that'll be fun. And then Boston, my daughter went, and so she shared a lot, and I have some friends from Boston. I haven't actually been to Boston. But I think to answer the question, there's so much research that can be done through like YouTube and Google and even Google Earth or Google Maps. Sometimes, if I'm wanting to look at a location, I'll go out and Google like, hey, give me the top 5 bars that are known for street bikers. And then I'll go to Google Earth and I'll look at like, okay, what's around it? So that way my description is the most accurate. And then to go a step further, you want to know, is the air temperature hot, cold, crisp? Like in Houston, it's hot and humid almost all the time. Well, I can't say it's a cold breeze here, but maybe like 2 days a year.
Right.
So, and I really try to do a lot of research through that. So that way it's authentic to my story. And those that are in Boston and reading there, they're like, oh my gosh, she nailed it. I go to Seaport District all the time, or she talked about this bar in Seaport District. So.
And you said that you were originally from Minnesota. Is there a series based on your background in Minnesota, maybe rolling around up there?
Sadly, no. I don't know what I would do in Minnesota. So the next one, I have the Bikers in Boston. And in
Well,
my,
hey, there's all kinds of things that you can do in the wintertime underneath the covers in
oh,
Minnesota.
okay, Stuart, we can co-write this one together. Let's go.
Do you feel, are you under any kind of pressure? You mentioned that you do write. Do you write a little bit every day? You force yourself to do it, or do you just sit down and write when you feel when you have the time and when you feel the urge?
For me personally, no, I have to write every single day because I will get out of practice. I will lose the flow. I can't remember the story. I
Okay.
also feel like it's a muscle that has to be exercised, just like, regular old fitness and movement. And so for me, I have to get words on paper at least every single day. Now, some days it's not much. Some days I'm busy with, children and family. I am a single mom raising these kids. And so it can be as short as, 200 words, but I try and get something down every single day to keep that momentum going because also it's a win. I want to be proud of myself and my progress.
Now, would that be advice that you would give to other people who do want to get into writing? Is to try and set a goal of sitting down and writing something every day?
I think that's really hard because I'm not in the situations that a lot of people are in. Maybe I don't have a special needs child. Maybe I don't have a job that's demanding 80 hours a work week.
Right.
There's so many life situations that I don't experience. So I don't want to be dangerous in giving that advice. What I want people to figure out is who are they, like I said, as a writer? Do they need to outline ahead of time? Do they need to do their character profiles ahead of time, or do they want to just fly by the seat of their pants and write as they go? I write as I go. I do very little prep on my characters. I let the characters tell me who they are. I've tried to outline, I've tried to plot, I've tried to come up with this extensive, detailed, 2-3 pages of character and like what he looks like and what his tattoos are, and does he have piercings and where does he have piercings? But that doesn't work for me because I tend to go off script.
And do you sometimes write, then walk away from it and maybe work on another novel and then come back a few days later and reread and then edit and say, maybe I'm going a little too far or too short in one direction or another?
Okay, that's such an excellent question. I don't write on multiple stories at a time. What I do write is I'll write my story that I'm on, which is the Bikers of Boston series, and then I'll write articles for Substack, or I'll write those articles that you saw, the Dynasty one, on my blog. So that changes. It's still storytelling, but from a different perspective. And then that way I don't mix up my characters. Have I walked away writing something and then come back and be like, my character wouldn't say that, wouldn't act that way, wouldn't do that, and then have to go back and rewrite it? Of course. So, that marinating when you walk away can happen at any time. It can happen during the day, when you're busy at a baseball game, when you're walking the dog, that kind of thing. But I think that's also where you're trying to figure out what kind of writer you are.
Another couple of things come to mind. You have two teenagers. Do they read your books?
Heck no. It's not age appropriate. But it's funny you should say that, Stuart, because I was talking to my daughter the other day and we laughed about it. She's like, Mom, I will never read your books. And I was like, perfect.
But she would promote your books to others,
When they
maybe.
get a little bit older, but apparently I have a little fan base in her friend group because of what I do is so unconventional. And my leap from doing my leap from corporate America to being a romance author is a huge one. And a lot of people don't understand it. But when you've had the golden handcuffs, they exactly are that. They are still handcuffs. And so you think like, I don't want to do this. I want to carve out my own path of freedom.
And kind of a follow-up to what I just asked, do either of your children have any desire to become writers in their own right?
No. And the beautiful part about that is that somewhere I raise them right, that they are independent thinkers and leaders. Although sometimes when it comes to chores and putting away their clothes, I wish I raised followers that would just do as they're told. But they have their own career path. And my whole thing is like, don't worry about the money. Your risk reward ratio at this age is like It's so unbelievable. The risk is zero. The reward is endless because they don't have responsibilities. I got the mortgage covered. I got tuition covered, etc. Go out there, be the best that you can be, and chase after your dream. And don't worry about all the adulthood responsibilities because they will catch up with you. They will tackle you to the ground, and then they will become yours forever. So let's delay that, and you go after whatever your dreams are.
You obviously are a good philosopher for your family too, in setting up those images for your kids. Your circle of friends, your female friends, are they avid followers? Are they participants? Are they sometimes the subject of some of your characters? Do
Honestly,
they share any of their things with you for you to write about?
Okay, honestly, never. Are they my cast of characters? Most of them are married, or maybe they're miserably married, but they're still married.
That's why they read your books.
Exactly. A little bit of fantasy. That didn't hurt nobody.
Right.
But I think it's really easy to write strong, independent women because we have so many examples in front of us. I think we have more examples than we've had historically in time. So to me, that's really, really easy. It's just determining what is their emotional arc going to be? What do they need the younger man? It's typically yin and yang. The younger man feels something that's missing with them, and then the woman feels something that's missing in them. That's in any relationship. That's in any successful, productive relationship.
I have always felt, and people have said to me, with having done almost 500 of these interviews, somebody says, aren't you going to write a book about all the interesting people that you have interviewed over the years? And in the back of my head, I say, yes, I would love to. Am I motivated to do it yet? Do I know how to do it? Did you do all of this on your own, or did you seek out some help from a publicist or someone to help you in this journey?
That's an excellent question. And I'm going to answer your question. Also, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. No, I bootstrapped it. Because I am so headstrong and because I'm used to being in charge, I may have a slight control issue where I think I have to do everything myself, including those covers. So I'm glad you love those covers because I created them. So I'm pretty proud of those works. Excuse me. But I do have a piece of advice for you to make it super easy. And I tell people this all the time. When you have a goal, it's not the goal of writing a book, right? That's way too daunting. It's overwhelming. You don't know how to do it. You don't know where to start. It's deciding to write a book every single time you sit down to write, whether that be daily, whether it be weekly, however your schedule is. So you have to commit to being an author or a writer into that end project. And so when you break it down into manageable chunks, it's more achievable. Plus, you also get your wins along the way. And wins are what keeps us going, right? It makes us feel good about ourselves. We finish that chapter. We finish that, 2/3 book or 20,000 words or however your measurement is. So for you, Stuart, and congratulations on having 500 interviews because that's really impressive. But the easiest way for you is you have all these turned into transcripts. You can convert them into a professional who will help you just compile the general themes. Maybe you have, love, politics, romance, however you have your general topics. And then you have your transcripts. Maybe you have 10 in this bucket and 8 in that and 20 in those. And they're helping you form that book. Think about it this way. Tim Ferriss wrote exactly kind of what you're talking about, The Titans of Power. He shares all of his interviews and stories that he's collected over the times, and that book is a bestseller. You're no different from Tim Ferriss, Stuart, in that that's all you have to do. Now, because you are so busy and you do have 3 podcasts, you can easily take those and, like I said, book up the transcripts. And then when everything is compiled in an organized manner, you then kind of fill in the blanks. You have the stories already. You fill in how to transition from one story to the next.
So what are you working on now? What's the future for GiGi Meier?
Great question. Okay, so I have The Bikers of Boston, which will be a 4-book series. I have the second book that'll be coming out in May, which is Pinned Throttle. I introduced a side character in the epilogue that will end up becoming a baseball series set in New York City. So I'm moving. So Bikers of Boston will be coming out the rest of this year. So I have 3 more books to release in that. The baseball series will be starting up. And then I have like a steamy, naughty, fun candy series. And it's going to be like a one-night stand, steamy, spicy. Yeah. So, and you can envision it to be men and candy. Hey.
Now you have, am I correct? You have just one book that is based on a female character?
Oh, okay. So 2 technically. So my debut novel is a very slow burn, very low spice mafia, like a cartel mafia. That's where I really cut my teeth on who I am, my writing craft. I had a developmental editor help me with that one. I wrote that book. I'm proud of it. That's when I got my first entree into dark romance. The Canyon series is all dark romance. So it is deliciously dark and emotionally traumatizing. And so you can't go into that series without reading the content warnings on my website because there is a lot of trauma to unpack. But the last book in that character, Isla, where she looks like a clown, she is, that's actually her in the book, a character she plays. And it unravels her story. She's been abused, in every way you can imagine by her mom's boyfriends. And then she was a runaway and exploited minor. So that was even worse. And then she ends up being in an abusive relationship because typically our domestic abuse survivors, the cycle repeats itself, which is sad and unfortunate. So yeah, those 2 are my female-based leads.
And again, those are characters that you have not taken from real life situations, but it's characters that you have created based on the research that you've done.
It is because I feel like my platform is really like women's awareness and empowerment. And so there's so many horrific things that happen to women globally. Yeah. And so even though I haven't experienced those firsthand, which is a blessing, there are many, many women that are cursed that have experienced it. And so to me, it's the human spirit overcoming them to become productive and successful individuals, which blows my mind. Some of the worst things that happen to women, and they can still come back and get married and have kids and have a beautiful life. I mean, the human spirit prevailing in either gender is a fascinating story for me, always.
Well, GiGi, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to have a conversation with me and with my followers. I think it's fascinating that you have just kind of recreated yourself into an image that you wanted to be based on where you were and what you did, because I think that's a testament to the people that are watching and listening that you can do that. That if you've reached the end of your current chapter and you want a new chapter, whatever that is, reach out, pursue it, and go after it 100%.
Stuart, I totally agree, because the thing that always surprises me when I talk to younger people and around me, they always say, oh, I'm too young to do X, Y, and Z. Then we get to be a certain point where we're like, well, I'm too old to learn a new language, pick up a new instrument, change my career. So I'm like, well, damn, when is the sweet spot? When are we too young or too old? And so if you always are chasing it, you'll never achieve it.
Yeah. I once read something that said, I've thought about it, and I don't think that adulthood is going to work for me. Well, I thank you again for being a guest. I end my show every week with Oscar Wilde, be yourself because everyone else is taken. And I thank you all for watching another episode of Someone You Should Know. And again, a big, big, big thank you to steamy novelist GiGi Meier. Thank you, dear.
Thank you so much.
Someone You Should Know.